All right, you guys, Mashiach Ben Joseph here again. Papa Yahweh has been bugging me for like a week to do this, but I've kept putting it off and procrastinating because I knew it would take a lot of writing because I don't have a Bible or anything, so I'd have to copy it off the internet and then freaking write it down and then read it out for the video and then translate it and everything to a more modern translation the way he explained it to me. And yeah, so basically this is about Isaiah 52 through 53, the end of the final servant song is what they call it. And I'll try to make this as quick as possible because yeah, don't want to waste too much of your time. But anyway, so here we go. This is Isaiah 52:13. See, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. And then I missed 14 when I was writing this down, so hang on a second. All right, so see, my servant will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there were many who were appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human being, and his form marred beyond human likeness. So he will sprinkle many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told they will see, and what they have not read they will understand. Then we get into Isaiah 53. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Okay, now basically what happens here in this is there's a lot of perspective changing. Like it starts off being like, see my servant, which is to suggest that this is supposed to be written from God's perspective. But then once it goes into the first half of Isaiah 53, it sort of changes to like a human perspective. And then suddenly at the end of 53, it goes back to a God perspective. And that's because the whole frickin' Bible, everything, is a bunch of corrupted and twisted stories that have been totally distorted and destroyed over thousands of years. And most of these stories were created before there was even common writing and stuff like that, and libraries and books and stuff like that. So the stories are all twisted and screwed up. But anyway, so here's we go. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hid their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions, and he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away, yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. All right, now that's the new international. That's the new international version translation, and Papa Yahweh explained this horribly written drivel to me, and how something not exactly how it's supposed to be, but something modern and closer to a true translation. So I wrote it down while he was telling me what to not exactly what to write word for word, but just as I was reading it, he would tell me the parts that were all screwed up and out of context and mixed up and scrambled up and stuff like that. So he told me what to write, and I wrote it down. And this is Yahweh's version, modern version, that has been slightly translated to correct all the screw ups in the story, or most of them. And yeah, so here we go. We start off with Isaiah 52:13, which is almost the same. Instead of servant, it's helper, because good beings don't have servants. Yahweh is a good being, and he would never have a servant. He would have a helper, and that would be it. So anyway, see, my helper will act wisely. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. Just as there are many who are appalled at him, his appearance was so disfigured beyond that of any human, and his form marred beyond human likeness, that he will piss on many nations, and kings will shut their mouths because of him. For what they were not told, they will see, and what they have not heard, they will understand. Now, basically, this introduction to Isaiah 53 kind of explains that this guy is going to be highly exalted, exalted so high that kings will shut their mouths at what he says and what he does, because they will see that he is better than them. So he's higher than all the kings of earth. He is like the King of Kings. And the only person that high would be the Mashiach or Messiah. So this stuff, God's helper, Yahweh's helper, is literally the Mashiach/Messiah. So here we go, into Isaiah 53. Who had, and something you need to keep in mind for this is that in almost every instant where the Bible says Lord, it actually means the devil. Like, honest to God, that's what Yahweh told me, is that in almost, because a Lord is like a master or a ruler, and good beings like in heaven and stuff like that, they're all as equals. There is a leader, but there's not like a master or a ruler, like somebody who imposes his will upon other people. That kind of shit is the devil's crap. So when you see the word Lord in the Bible, it's almost always about the devil. So here we go with Isaiah 53. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the works of the devil been revealed? And that's basically what this whole prophecy stuff is about, is who has believed our message, which is the message that's been tried to pass on for thousands of years, which is this prophecy stuff. And to whom has the works of the devil been revealed? And the works of the devil are all the scrambling of the Bible and the corruption of mankind and the corruption of ancient texts and stuff like that. So anyway, here we go. He grew up before the devil as a loving and caring soul, but like a root out of dry ground, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. So like a root out of the dry ground would be like, soil that has no nutrients, has no life in it. It doesn't raise the child properly. So it comes out like a root out of dry ground, meaning that he has no beauty or goodness to attract us to him, because he's never been nurtured and properly raised. All right. He despised and rejected mankind. Now the original one says he was despised and rejected by mankind, but it's actually supposed to be he despised and rejected mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain, like one from whom people hide their faces. He was despised and held in low esteem. Surely he tolerated their pain and bore their suffering. Yet they considered him punished by God, stricken by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced because of their crimes and crushed because of their evils. The punishment that brought them peace of mind was on him, and by his wounds they were satisfied. They all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of them has turned to their own way, and the devil has laid on him the evil of them all. Oops, I put us instead of them. Has laid on the evil of them all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shears is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living, and for the crimes of the people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the devil's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the devil makes his life an offering for evil, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of God will prosper in his hands. After he has suffered, he will see the truth and goodness of his life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous helper will justify many, and he will bear their evils. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he was numbered with the transgressors and poured out his life until death. For he bore the evils of many, yet tried to help free them from evil. And that's it. That's basically Yahweh told that's the translation that Yahweh told me how it's actually supposed to be. All right. Now, if you want to know who is in the who this person is, which is me, obviously, if you want to see design proof that relates to my identity and my existence and where this crap took place, and these disgusting, evil piece of shit people that were so vile, and what was done was so disgusting that Yahweh decided to warn humanity about it and get his prophets to write about it, then look in the description below and you'll find a link to a short document called The Hammer of the Gods and a couple of videos showing more about this verse and the design that I mentioned. You should read them and watch them, and then watch this video again, and you should be able to more easily see the truth about all this. That the old translation is like totally corrupted garbage. It's almost totally unreadable. It just jumps around, switches perspective, and it's all just been butchered and mutilated, sort of like how I was. And yeah. So yeah, that was basically the modern translation that Yahweh asked me to do, and there you go. You can watch it again if you want to get a better understanding of Yahweh's perspective on things. But there you go.